Joining us on the line right now is Susan Faricio, Chief Congressional Correspondent for the Washington Examiner. Susan, good to have you with us because, you know what, we're confused. I mean, I really need you to help me understand what's going on. So,
well, it's great to be here. I'll be happy to.
All right, good. Straighten us out. So, generally, Republicans, by and large, are upset about the president's desire to grant amnesty, so they believe extra constitutionally, to some 5 million people that are in this country illegally. And so they also have this looming budget deadline where they got to come up with funding for the government by December 11th. Some people believe that we need to take action to deny the president the funds he needs to carry out his desire to grant amnesty. Where are we in that debate, and what's going to happen?
Right. There definitely are Republicans who want to take that route, but a short history lesson, think back to October 2013. Similar fight played out over the health care law, and Republicans decided to go to the mat over this with the Democrats. They got in a big fight over spending. Gridlock ensued. The government closed for 16 days, and Republicans were blamed. Their poll numbers sunk to historic lows.
Well, so and fast forward to November, and they won historic gains at the polls.
That's right. And in fact, so backing up a little bit, a lot of Republicans said, hey, we're not doing that again. The only reason why we were able to save ourselves after that poll plummeting was because the health care law was such a mess. We got lucky. And in some ways they got lucky poll-wise because that saved them because the Democrats were getting all the heat over the health care law. So they don't want to take that risk again because look back to the mid-'90s when Newt Gingrich would fight with Bill Clinton over government funding. The government was shut down. Again, Republicans are blamed. They feel like this is just a no-win situation for them. So what the Republican leadership would like to do is just fund the government on the whole until the end of the fiscal year and take a small part of it that would deal with Homeland Security and the deportation executive action and temporarily fund that at full levels until March, when Republicans will be in the majority in both chambers, and they feel at that point they can take it on, pass something, although they're still going to face a veto from the president. So you're still going to have a fight there, but I think they feel they'll have a better standing in March. But there are a lot of Republicans, and you heard a lot of them talking yesterday. Jeff Sessions of Alabama, who will likely be head of the Budget Committee in the Senate, and various House Republicans saying, you know, we really need to do something about this now. If we wait, this process will already be rolling. It'll be hard to undo it. This is, as you say, Larry, they believe it's outside the Constitution, and they shouldn't hesitate to make it part of the funding.
All right, but hold on. I got to make sure I understand one thing. So you fund the entire government for the full year, but you say to the Homeland Security Department, we're not going to give you everything that you need. We're going to fund parts of your department through March because we don't want to give the president the money to do that.
Not quite. Here's
okay.
What they'll be saying is we'll give the Homeland Security Department their entire budget, but only until March.
Only until March.
Yes.
All right, but isn't the president going to veto that, right?
No. No. Here's what it sounds like the Democrats would agree to: that as long as you're not stripping funding from any department, they're okay with it. I know on the Hill they're okay with it. Normally, if they're okay with it on the Hill, the president is as well. It would be tough for him to veto that, Brian, because there's no funding missing. It's just a shorter-term bill for Homeland
Security. Okay.
Yes, exactly. So I think this is likely a go. But what it does, though, is it prolongs this fight until next year when you're going to see, you guys, it's going to be kind of a mess because we've got the debt ceiling that will come up against by then, and then we'll have this expiring spending level for the Department of Homeland Security, which, don't forget, funds our Border Patrol and things that really matter in terms of keeping our border secure. So it's high stakes, and it's going to make next year more of this toe-to-toe business over funding the government and making sure our debt limit is extended so that we can pay the nation's bills. So it just prolongs the fight rather than taking care of it.
Susan Faricio, interesting exchange yesterday, the Homeland Security Committee. It was the first time that Republicans had a chance to speak officially about the president's executive amnesty. Jay Johnson was there testifying on its behalf. Lou Barletta, congressman from Pennsylvania, brought up an issue with regard to employers and how this affects them in employing an American worker with the Affordable Care Act provisions and mandates. Listen to this quick exchange.
An employer may have a decision to make. Do I keep the American worker and provide health insurance or pay a $3,000 fine, or do I get rid of the American worker and hire someone who I do not have to provide health insurance and I won't get fined? Is that a possibility?
I don't see it that way.
He says, I don't see it that way. This exchange, I think, is very enlightening. It almost seems as though the administration didn't really think this through. They just wanted to do what they wanted to do.
And that's right, and that's a real pivotal question. That exchange you just played is a really important part of this debate, because the way the law is written is just as the congressman described. And you're not getting a straight answer out of the administration because I don't think they quite know what to do about it. And again, there were many exchanges yesterday at that hearing. Secretary Johnson was asked about how we are capable or able to measure whether we are keeping the border secure. And he said they really don't have a good system in place to measure whether the border is actually secure. And that is a work in progress. And so there's still, it just sounds like things are really, we're inviting in a lot of new people here. There's a concern it will encourage more people to try to cross the border illegally so that they can somehow benefit from this executive action, yet the border is not entirely secure, or at least no one's quite sure if it will be secure. All kinds of exchanges like that yesterday at the hearing, and I don't think it left Republicans feeling any better about the president's executive action.
All right, so let me ask you another question on a different topic, and that is the next Secretary of Defense. It appears, everywhere you read to this morning, the word is that Ashton Carter, who was once the number 2 over at the Pentagon, is going to get the nod from the administration, though strangely, they haven't made the official announcement yet. If he is nominated, will he be confirmed?
Yes, he will. I think that it's yesterday in the halls in Congress, we were asking just about every senator who would stop to chat about him, and they believe he's a good choice. He's got experience. He's obviously very well educated, as you guys were saying in the previous segment, and plus he's a star of a sitcom that's highly rated.
Yeah, there you go. No,
who's going to say no to him?
That's a different Ashton.
Susan Ferricchio, fresh off of her New York Thanksgiving, joining us here on Mornings on the Mall. Did you enjoy the Macy's parade, by the way?
I did indeed. That was amazing. I'd never seen those giant balloons before. It was really impressive.
Yeah, it is. All right, Susan, always good to talk to you. Thank you.